Hello everyone, welcome back to Under the Checkered Flag, and today we are going to be discussing the Indonesian Grand Prix without Kate again, as she is still recovering from her surgery, and we wish her the best. It's all we can do. Starting off at the top, Adrian Fernandez is going to stay at Leopard, even though he was rumoured to be going to MLAV, but I didn't really believe that. I thought he would be staying with a better team, and we also have Almanzat intact, which I think is probably a really, really good move, and I'm hoping that'll work out for him very, very well. Um, I don't have a lot to say on the moves in particular, but I do have a lot to say about Adrian Fernandez in particular. So we'll wait until later in the podcast to talk about that. But what do you think about these moves?
Yeah, I feel like it's probably best case scenario for both riders. The world feed commentators were saying in Japan that David Almanza had an option for 2026 to stay at Leopard, but it was a performance-based clause. And as it stands, Adrian Fernandez has been outperforming him. So I'm not too surprised that they've sort of backflipped on that. But I think it's a good move, especially for David Almanza. I feel like he's a rider a lot like Matteo Bertelli, who we've seen on a Honda, where they're pretty quick in practice and qualifying, but as soon as the race comes in, they kind of just drop back through the field. So yeah, I'm excited to see what David Almanza in particular can do next year on board the KTM.
And especially in qualifying, we saw riders not really do their job. They were waiting around in pit lane, they weren't really rushing to get out, and they didn't make it around to the line to actually set their lap times. But is there really a point in doing this? Are they like setting a protest? Are they trying to plan something else and it didn't really work out? Like, what is the plan here? Because they're not doing themselves any favors and they're not doing us any favors. Like, do you think they have anything planned for why they're doing this, or they're just being a little bit silly?
Unfortunately, this is something we've seen in Moto3 for probably the best part of a decade at this point, and it just doesn't seem like the riders ever kind of like learn from what they're doing. I feel like it's been shown on multiple occasions that there's at least half the field are probably capable of doing a lap good enough to get into Q2 by themselves, but they all just decide they're gonna mess around, wait around coming out of the pits, or wait for one person to go out and then try and follow them. I believe they were mainly trying to follow Rueda this time round, but I feel like honestly they should just get on with it. Uh, if you're behind someone, fair enough, but I don't really like the whole waiting around for one rider then everyone going out at once. It's just a bit dangerous when you've got pretty much 18 riders back to front all going on qualifying laps. As soon as one rider makes a mistake towards the front of the field, it messes pretty much everyone else up. And then at that point, no one gets any advantage from being near anyone else. So it's still something I'd like to see them sort of learn from in the future. And I feel like the only way we can really get to that is if the stewards start fulfilling the promises that they are going to penalize things like this harshly, which I feel like we're still yet to see entirely come into effect. But yeah, that's just something.
It's Kate here. While I'm not on the podcast this week, I do still edit it. Thank you to everyone that's reached out. I am recovering well after my surgery, but I can't talk for long. Our recordings seem to have a bit of an issue, so there's no transition. Kelly is jumping straight into talking about the incident between Adrian Fernandez and David Munoz in Moto3 in the next segment.
For a win, and you're in Moto3. You're a child, so I'm not one to blame. But why? Why? There was no need for it whatsoever. It's a racing incident, I know, but I'm annoyed because Munoz has been actually consistently, not murderous in his races, and it was looking so good for him. And now he might not be able to finish the season, and that irritates me. And I'm still very irritated about it. So, Adrian, we have beef now, major beef. Um, Aside from that, Scott Ogden, who I thought was going to have a pretty decent race, did not, and he ended up retiring from the race. David Lamanza, who was literally just been signed to Intact, also had a crash. So actually, the two Intact riders crashed out this weekend, which wasn't a good sign considering they just had their riders, but it's fine. And I hope they'll come back stronger soon. For the race winner, Rueda miles off to wow. I don't think anyone expected differently, but it could have been Munoz. Um Pini and Lunetta to finish the weekend. Honestly, just pretty bloody beautiful, and yeah, loved it.
Yeah, I feel like it was a pretty good podium all around, ignoring the fact that David Munoz probably should have been on it. But yeah, wasn't the best move from Adrian Fernandez. We saw him make contact earlier on in the race with Munoz as well, so rightly penalised, obviously. And it was a shame to see Munoz go down. You could see that he got a fractured left femur. You could see in the crash that his leg kind of just started flopping all around the place as he was tumbling through the runoff area, which really wasn't that great to see. But yeah, happy for Rueda, especially getting the title wrapped up with a win. There's nothing you can really do better than that. So happy for him, and also for Guido Pini getting his first podium in the series.
Yeah, especially for Pini, he had such a good weekend. For Moto2, there wasn't really a lot going on. I think it was the most boring race of the weekend, and I say that with chest. We only had we had a lot of DNFs, but we didn't have, I suppose, a lot of racing going on, which is a bit of a pain. Danny Holgado and David Alonso are the two I was most shocked about, because Danny Holgado was coming off the back of probably his strongest weekend, if we're going to be entirely honest. But yeah, it was just absolutely shocking to me. David Alonso, I feel like it's in his era where he's just having a pretty harsh run of it, but I definitely feel like he can come back from that. So yeah, it was unfortunate to see both riders go down the same weekend. Not very nice for Aspar as a team, but they'll come back stronger. They always do. Alex Eskridge went down as well. He's coming off the back of a pretty good weekend, and he's kind of seeming to find form, which is surprising considering he was absolutely nowhere about a year ago. But he's getting there. And Celestino Vietti, who when he went down, I read VEI instead of VIE, and I almost threw the remote at my TV, but he didn't, so it's okay. It wasn't who I thought it was. Moving on to actual results, Colin Vire finished 8th. Yay! Honestly, I really couldn't have been happier about that, even though I know I really want him to get a podium. But to this moment in time, I'll have to just take whatever points I can get. I can't complain. Yeah, just did so well. Aaron Canet has started finishing on the podium again, which is a really positive move up. And Diego Moreira has won, and I feel like he can definitely take the title from Manu Gonzalez at this point in time with how they are right now. But we'll see how that goes within the race. So what did you think?
Yeah, I'm going back from what I said last week. I feel like Moreira's definitely a lot more in the title race now after what happened with Manuel Gonzalez, which I believe we'll get to once I finish giving my thoughts on the rest of the race. Moreira obviously dominated. It didn't look like at any stage anyone would be challenging him. And Ethan Guevara on the podium for the first time this year, I'm pretty sure. Seems to be his sort of like normal thing, getting form in the flyaways. He did the same thing last year where he looked strong towards the end of the season. So hopefully that sets him up well for next year. Aaron Canet ended up getting on the podium as well, which honestly I wasn't really expecting. He's just been a bit off of it recently, but I guess it's good for him being up there as well. Means he's still an outside shot at the title with Barry Baltus in 4th. I'd still say he's pretty much out of it now, but yeah. Further back, top rookie was Ivan Otola in P7, so good result for him. Just beat Colin Vire by about half a second, so good result for them both. With Adrian Huertas in the top 10, which is always good to see, and none of the other rookies managed to score points, unfortunately.
I think the biggest talking point of Moto2 at the weekend is the fact that Manu Gonzalez got disqualified. This is going to take an absolute huge chunk out of whatever lead he still had left in the title fight, and I feel like it's going to be taken away from him by Diogo Moreira, which will be both devastating and fair, I'd say. He just hasn't been on it. He hasn't been anywhere near where he should be. And this disqualification, although devastating, it's fair. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say about it. It's just a little bit irritating.
Yeah, it's super unfortunate for him especially because it was something that a mechanic of his did, I believe, something with some sort of software mapping. So nothing that he could really do about it, which is obviously the sort of annoying part for him. But it's seen his lead that would have been 29 points over Diogo Moreira cut down to 9 points, which, with as many races as there is left, isn't particularly comfortable for him. Aaron Canet's 33 points back, but I still don't particularly think he'd really be considered in the title fight. I feel like it's still a two-horse race at this point. But yeah, super unfortunate for Moreira. He probably won't be very happy at whoever was the cause of the wrong setting being applied or whatever it was. But yeah, he'll just have to work even harder to stay ahead of Moreira in the coming races.
Yeah, and in MotoGP, we have another rider who might be out for the rest of the season, and that is Maverick Vinales. He is in injury recovery and he withdrew from the weekend due to pain. But the talk around the paddock is that he's not going to finish the season. He's going to pull out and focus on 2026. Personally, I think it's a good idea, even without it seeming really rude. He hasn't been anywhere this season. He hasn't been anywhere specific, significant. And I feel like withdrawing for the season and focusing on next year is the best decision he could make. Just to recover and not damage himself further than he can do. Same with Mark and David hasn't confirmed, but it's the same with Mark Marquez. Mark Marquez will not be attending the next two Grand Prix, which is devastating for Kate and Poz as they are going to Australia. But yeah, it's the best decision he could make. He's better off focusing on the next year and just coming back stronger than he was.
I completely agree with that point on Maverick Vinales. I feel like he just came back way too early from the shoulder injury that he had. Was never really gonna get back to the form he was sort of in the earlier parts of the season. Again, not much he could do about it. He's injured, but I still think he probably should have focused a bit more on recovery. It's not like he's in title contention or anything. But yeah, I think it's probably the best choice to just not worry about this year. Everything's pretty much done, and just keep his mind on getting ready for next year.
Yeah, totally agree. We're going to talk about the sprint, and I didn't enjoy it that much, but well, actually, I enjoyed it more than the rest of the weekend. But I didn't enjoy it as much because of Fabio Quartararo, who was it's just not his. It's just not been his races, man. He's nowhere. He's nowhere. That Yamaha is nowhere. But I'm hoping that their 2026 development is moving along a lot quicker than what they're at now. Pedro Acosta also went down, who was actually having a pretty solid weekend. It was just a bit irritating for him to end up where he did, but he always comes back stronger. The only person who didn't come back stronger this weekend was Pecco Bagnaia. Oh my god, what an absolute howler of a weekend. 30 seconds off the field, and I wish I was kidding. He's not. He was 30 seconds off the entire field, was last out of everyone still running, and made basically no attempts to overtake. He was absolutely nowhere. I don't know if it's a problem with the bike, but considering the fact that the bike was so strong last weekend, I am beginning to doubt that a little bit. Um, Aside from that, podium was a little bit mixed considering how crazy qualifying was, but we got Raul Fernandez in third. We got Furman Aldeguer in second, and we got Marco Bezzecchi in first. I was so happy. I came into Sunday so prepared, and well, that got knocked out of the park for me. But overall, a decent race, I'd say, for a sprint.
Yeah, obviously most of the sprint action was kind of made by Bezzecchi getting a poor start and having to cut back through the field and chase down Fermin Aldeguer, but he managed to get it done. He had better pace than pretty much everyone else over the whole weekend. Managed to get it done on the last lap in what was a pretty good fight between the two. They traded places, I think, twice on the last lap, so always good to see some proper racing, especially in sprints, since they always have the potential to be a bit lackluster. But yeah, thought it was a pretty good race. Happy for both of them getting good results in it as well.
Definitely. Now we're going to move straight onto the race, which was a lot more entertaining and probably a lot more fun for some people, but not for me. big Marc Marquez and big Marco Bezzecchi fan, so you can imagine how I felt when Bezzecchi ploughed through the field like a fish out of water and took out Marc Marquez. Wasn't very enjoyable, and both had pretty horrendous crashes. Where Mark broke his collar. No, he has a fracture and he has ligament damage to his right shoulder. Was entirely wrong with that, but yeah, he got major damage from that crash, and I believe Marco Bezzecchi, because he was going full speed and ended up obviously falling down, I believe he was knocked out for a few seconds after his crash, which is really dangerous. Um, Glad both are okay, and there's no hard feelings, which is very, very easy to do, Rossi. Yeah, no hard feelings between the two of them, which is really nice to see. Especially Mark calling for no hate towards Marco. It's just that's a really gentlemanly thing to do, and the right thing to do, because even though I do complain a bit about Adrian Fernandez, the riders never do it on purpose. You can be irritated with them, you can be pissed off with them, but they never do any of this stuff on purpose, and you shouldn't be sending hate or any sort of threats to them whatsoever. Wow, that turned into a bit of a PSA for some reason, but aside from that, it was quite entertaining until Pekka Bagnaia went down, which I feel like was just a bit inevitable considering how bad his weekend was going. And it was probably for the best that happened considering how bad his weekend was going. But we only ended up having 14 finished riders, which is not very ideal. But I think the most fun thing to come out of this race was the podium, which we had Alex Marquez in third, making a return to the podium. We had Pedro Acosta in second, and we had Fermin Aldeguer take his first Grand Prix win, which was lovely to see. I wish it could have been under better circumstances, but just a lot of fun to look at. So, yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I do respect what Marc Marquez said after the race about the incident with Bezzecchi. This is just my opinion, but I feel like Mark's been on both sides of these sort of incidents in the past before, so he knows that obviously no one does it on purpose. You don't just send it down the inside of someone hoping to take them out. It was a bit of a desperate lunge from Bezzecchi. Probably didn't need to make that move at that particular corner, but he'll learn and hopefully not do that at the same place next year. Super unfortunate for both of them. Obviously, you don't want to see riders go down and get hurt. I feel like there should probably be a question raised about the gravel trap that Marquez went into, especially. It seemed to be quite a bit higher than the tarmac runoff, which probably made his like the whole crash and obviously his injuries worse than they probably should have been. But I'm sure that's something that will get brought up. Outside of that, everyone that finished managed to get points. It was one of those sort of races with a depleted field and a few crashes. It was unfortunate to see Mir go down all of his own accord this time, so no one to blame but himself. As we mentioned, Bagnaia had just a weekend that he won't be wanting to remember. Obviously, way off the pace in both races and crashed in the main one. So hopefully we see him at least fighting other riders in Phillip Island. And Enea Bastianini also crashed out, which was unfortunate. But in the end, top rookie was, of course, Fermin Aldeguer getting the race win. Without Bezzecchi there, it didn't really look like anyone else was going to challenge him. So good to see him still get it done. He didn't do what like Jorge Martin did in 2023, where he had that massive lead and crashed out. So good result for Aldeguer. Becomes the first rookie to win a race since Martin as well. Pedro Acosta in second. Good to see him not crash out of this race as well. I thought he'd be dropping back through the field with the tyre management that he normally suffers, but managed to keep it on the podium and ahead of Alex Marquez in third. And also Brad Binder managed to get a best result of the season in fourth, so happy for him as well.
Yeah, I think we need to do a bit of an injury update, even though we talked about it a lot in this podcast because we both have straight feelings towards it. But Munoz has a broken femur, which I believe will take him out for the rest of the season. So thanks, Adrian, appreciate that. And Mark, as I mentioned, has a ligament damage to his right shoulder and also a fracture. So he is out for at least 2 Grand Prix, which is not ideal, but I feel like he can be back for the end of the season if he takes it careful and not pull a Jorge Martin. And David Munoz will likely be out for the rest of the season, which is devastating for me. But I feel like he's definitely a title contender for next year, so I don't care aside from that because he's gonna win and he's gonna beat Adrian Fernandez and he's gonna wave the trophy in his face. No, he won't, but that's what I want to happen. Anyway, that is, I believe, it. So I'm going to